A few years ago, before I was ordained a priest, I was privileged to be able to go on what is called an Ignatian silent retreat, which is essentially a month on silent retreat, going throughout those days, having Mass every day, having several holy hours, and then being able to simply relax in the silence and the solitude. Now, in a certain way, that sounds very beautiful, very idealistic, but in another way, it can induce a certain level of anxiety, which is what it did for me. Because I started to think to myself, well, 30 days is a long time to talk to the Lord. Maybe I need to prepare some stuff and to go over, do a little homework, so I can get kind of this map of what I'm going to do. The things I'm going to pray for, the things I'm going to pray about, what I'm going to do throughout those 30 days, so that I'm not bored and I don't find myself kind of at a loss at some point. The Lord won't leave me abandoned. Kind of doing it on my own terms. You can imagine my shock and dismay when I ran out of things to pray about that I had planned on the third day. And so I started thinking to myself, well, this didn't go so well. But instead I found that it was much better to do things by the terms of the Master and not try to figure things out on my own or do things according to my own design or even in my own terms. Today's gospel is one of those that is very difficult to hear. And not because necessarily it's dealing with something that is hard for us to follow, but it seems confusing because we have an open contradiction at the very end. It seems like whenever the word prudence is used, it's used for a person that isn't living prudently. So what are we to make of it? Whenever this dishonest steward comes forward, are we supposed to be exactly like him? Are we supposed to make friends with wealth? What exactly is this gospel encouraging us to do? Or how is it going to change our life? So we started off that Jesus was telling his disciples the story of the dishonest steward. So a steward, we know, is the caretaker. He is the one that is entrusted with the master's property, and he is charged to not only take care of it, but to maximize it if possible. And so we have someone who's not only not doing that, but is doing the exact opposite. That he is out squandering, that is wasting away all of his master's property. And we could guess why, but we're just told that it's simply him going out and spending everything freely. And so eventually the master becomes aware of it. He calls in that steward and he asks him, "What is this I hear about you? Prepare a full account of your stewardship. You cannot be my steward." Now, he's not saying this out of necessarily anger, but he's saying it just out of a matter of fact, because the steward is supposed to safeguard and supposed to build up, not squander and waste away. And so, in fact, just on its name, this isn't a good steward. So, this steward, he goes away, and he's honestly distraught that he understands the plight of his situation. He says, "What am I to do? I've never been strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg." Then he gets an idea. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to my master's debtors. I'm going to call them in, and each of them, as they bring in their promissory notes, I'll give them back, and I'll tell them to write one with a significant discount. Then, after this position is taken away, at least I can be welcome into their homes. And this troubling line, then the master commended that servant for acting prudently. It seems in our heart of hearts that's not right. He's not acting prudently. He's still squandering away the master's property and everything that belongs to him, all of his possessions. Why is the master telling him he's acting prudently? Let's continue on and we'll try to sort that out after we get through these other details. And so we're told that at the end, in this kind of section where Jesus seeks to explain, that he says, the children of this world are more prudent in dealing with the children of this generation than are the children of light. It almost seems like the child of the light, the one who is following the gospel, the one who is following Jesus Christ, is at some sort of disadvantage. But he's actually admitting a fact, that sometimes they can be a little bit more shrewd in dealing with things than the children of light can be. But let's continue. So we're told that towards the middle of this section, that those who are trustworthy in small matters will be trustworthy in great. Those who are dishonest in small will be dishonest in great. Again, something of proverbial wisdom that we know to be true. But we conclude with this final thought. one cannot serve two masters. One will either love one and hate the other, or will delight in one and despise the other. Then this final clincher of a line: you cannot serve both God and Mammon. So how are we to thread this all together? Especially because it seems this ending section, it contradicts something that we found before. And it was a line that said, to make friends with dishonest wealth. What is this saying? It's not saying that this dishonest steward was correct in everything he did. He made a series of mistakes. We need to make that clear. But there are certain areas where he started to discover something was off, and he started to pursue the light instead of the darkness. You see, at the very beginning, he was given a great amount of gifts. He was given this beautiful position, and yet immediately he started to waste it away. All of the master's gifts, all of the master's things that he had, all of his possessions, he started to squander them away. And then the second mistake, time ran out. That there was the moment whenever the master realized what had happened and said, it's time for an accounting. How have you done? And the steward knew immediately he was in trouble. That was the second mistake. Then the third and final. We see that even though he kind of has this understanding, he needs friendship, he moved in the right direction, he still wasn't quite there. Because he didn't fully turn to the master. Instead, he trusted only on what he could control with those own two hands and not what the master was doing. He didn't try to correct his ways necessarily to the full, but he did correct himself at least a little bit. But the third mistake was not trusting in the master. So my brothers and sisters, there's actually a series of corrections for each of us. That we too have been given possessions. Are we taking good care of our time? And then finally, are we headed towards the right master? Or are we kind of letting ourselves steer the ship or living life on our own terms? You see, whenever we look at this end, what is the very clear and definitive line? You cannot serve both God and Mammon. So what does this mean then when Jesus is saying make friends with dishonest wealth? Is he saying this is your God? No, certainly not. Is he saying that this is what you need? That you need to concern yourself with this primarily in your life? No, not even that. So what is he saying? Notice he qualifies it. He says, make friends with dishonest wealth so that when it falls away, you will have a home in eternal life. So he's not saying that money should be your God. He's not saying mammon should be the most important thing in your life. But what he is saying is use it in the right context. That it is dishonest wealth. And what is dishonest about wealth? The most dishonest thing wealth tells us is that it will make us happy. It'll solve all of our problems. It will bring us life. It will make sure that we are well taken care of every moment in life. We know in our heart of hearts, my brothers and sisters, there comes a moment when money doesn't fix the sadness. It doesn't take away the brokenness. It doesn't mend up what has been broken. It doesn't fix a lot of those things. And even sometimes when we don't have the answers in life that we want, money's still not providing those. So what is Jesus saying? He says, you're given gifts. You can be given wealth even. Use it in the right way. But with the understanding, it will leave you wanting for more. So at the end of the day, the most important message coming out of this is this: serve your God and no one else. Let the Lord be your master and not anything or anyone else. Not even yourself. Not living life on your own terms, but living according to God the Father. You see, my brothers and sisters, the most powerful takeaway from this should be a ponderance or a question for us. Who is right now the master in my life? Who is the one that I serve? Who is the one that I think is most important and most valuable in my life? Is it God? Is it myself? Is it money? Is it that power or that position that I've been striving for so long? Or even sometimes some lesser things, some sin, some greed, some idolatry, some many other things. There are a lot of things that we could serve in this life. but only one that's truly going to make us happy and fulfilled, and that is serving God. And two, we need to be aware. Sometimes there's this thought, maybe I can serve both. Maybe I can kind of put money over here and God over here and kind of just give time where I have the ability to do so. That's not what Jesus says either. He says you cannot serve two masters equally. You will either love one and hate the other, or you will desire one and despise the other. Our hearts don't work that way. We serve one of most importance, and then we might be able to use the other one as we see fit. So it's not as if we can serve two things equally in our life. One thing will always take priority. We need to be honest about that. And what is the thing that has priority? Sometimes, my brothers and sisters, people like to serve money. They like to serve possessions. They like it whenever they have all of this stuff or all of the things that make others look at them and say, oh, how much money they must have or how important they must be. But what happens to our relationship with God? It starts to become subordinated. We start to only call upon God whenever we see that maybe He can help us get a little more money or that other possession or that thing. That's when we call upon Him. What if we reverse that? Because that's what Jesus wants. He doesn't want us to be like this dishonest steward. Even though he starts to move in the right direction, he says, money hasn't ever made me happy. Maybe these other things will. So he's starting to try some other things out, but still not quite at the master just yet. But maybe it's time for us to be honest in our heart of hearts and say, I need to serve God. I need to trust Him. I need to have faith that the one who made the heavens and the earth and made me myself will make me happy, will fulfill me, will satisfy me. And nothing else on this life, nothing else on this earth will satisfy me. Maybe that's what the Lord is encouraging us to do. And that indeed is. Because if we put the Lord in that prime position, that first place and that first priority in our life, we will still have a lot of things. We will have a lot of talents, a lot of treasures, a lot of gifts. We will still have money, we will have possessions. That will not change. What will change is how we use those things, because we will use them in service of God, in service of our neighbor, in getting closer to our Lord Jesus Christ. That we have a lot of good things in this life, and we're given a lot of beautiful things, but they must ultimately bring us closer to God. And to the final word, my brothers and sisters, time is wasting away. We cannot presume upon ourselves that we will have time to pursue money now and God later. That's not how this works. And that's not how it worked for the dishonest steward. There came the day whenever the master called him and he said, now's the time for your accounting. Tell me what you've done. And it wasn't a good look. My brothers and sisters, the devil always wants to convince us that we'll have more time, that we will continue to have the days and the weeks to get our relationship right with God. But maybe it's time to get it right now. Maybe it's time to get serious. Maybe it's time to put God in first place and first priority. Maybe it's finally time to call Him Master and everything else subordinate to Him. Maybe it's now finally time to do that. Because, my brothers and sisters, I don't want you to be like me and figure out on the third day that living on my own terms isn't working. This dishonest steward did the same thing in his own way. There was no turning back. But for us, there is. Let us not serve anything less than God. Not money, not possessions, not even people around us, not even our own pride or our own ego. But rather, let's instead serve the Lord, our God, who is our master. Let's do it today. Let's not wait. So, my brothers and sisters, Jesus has made it very clear. We cannot serve God and mammon. We cannot serve God and others. We cannot serve God and ourselves. Someone must always be in first place. So who is your first priority in this life, my brothers and sisters? Who is Master? Who is Lord? Is it God? Or is it something or someone else?